And since then, we rattled off 20 of 21 and 17 straight, and that's hard to do. A coach once told me it's hard to win, and we're enjoying every minute of it.
I'm Kyle Owens, and welcome to Sports Now, brought to you by East Texas Marketing Solutions. Next Level Digital Advertising has arrived. Grow your business with advanced solutions from one of the largest digital agencies in the country. East Texas Marketing Solutions is a resource for utilizing and executing advanced multi-platform marketing strategies. Discover more at easttexasmarketingsolutions.com.
All right, we are here with the head coach of the Cayuga men's basketball team, Taylor Bill. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your squad here. 21-4 record overall, 3-0 in district play, and you've won 17 games in a row. So talk to me a little bit about, first of all, the season as a whole, and then you had a big win on earlier this week, 64-35 over Centerville. So talk to me about that, and then kind of the year as a whole for this Cayuga team.
Obviously, it's been a great year. Had a rough start early in the season. Started 1-3 against some winnable games, I thought, and I thought our turning point was at halftime of the Grossbeck game. We're 1-3, and we were actually down 24-3 to start that game, and we're down 15 at halftime. And there was no adjustments made at halftime. There was just me telling them we're gonna have a 5 a.m. practice tomorrow, and we're gonna figure this out. And the funny part is we actually come back to tie it in the third quarter before eventually losing. But I thought that was our turning point. There was no complaints from parents, no complaints from the kids. They showed up the next morning at 5 a.m. all on time, and I think that was the time where they were like, okay, this new coach is serious. And since then we rattled off 20 of 21 and 17 straight, and that's hard to do. A coach once told me it's hard to win, and we're enjoying every minute of it. And we know the schedule gets tougher coming up, and we'll see how that goes. But as our win the other night, very much respect for Centerville and their coach. Coach Hammett does a great job over there with what he has, and we're just kind of on that streak right now where everything's falling. We're doing well defensively, following the game plan, hitting shots that are tough shots, and kind of just putting it all together. And I think that's kind of why our record is what it is.
Well, this is your first year there at Cayuga, so taking over a program and then trying to instill your culture and kind of your philosophy into the program. How difficult was that at the start? You mentioned, off to a rough start, 1-3, but since turned around. But how difficult is it to instill that culture and to get the kids to buy into what you're selling?
I think that word culture is a great word. It's on our warm-up tops. I want that word to be thrown around here in the community and with our kids. And it's definitely tough. It takes time. We're kind of all surprised here right now with the great early success that we have. We got 2 starting freshmen, and combine them with our captain seniors, and usually that takes a little time, and it did at first. It takes some time to instill your program and your philosophies and your culture with new kids who are kind of they've been mediocre, to say the least, I guess, the last few years. And it's definitely tough. It's not hard, but these kids, they buy in. Like I said, that turning point, that Grossbeck game kind of let them know, hey, it's time to get serious. This coach is for real, and they've kind of took it and ran with it, and doing what they're supposed to do, holding themselves accountable, and doing all the right things.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned before the support that you have from Coach McGee, the athletic director, and kind of from top down, how much they support you and the program and the kids. How much does that help to have, your administration behind you every step of the way and supporting you to help these kids get the most out of what they can do?
Well, I think that's fantastic. I think it's great too, because our superintendent coached these freshman boys since they were in second grade. Our superintendent does that. Of all the things that he needs to be doing, he loves him some basketball, and he's at every game as well. And he's helped mold that group as well to be successful now. And as for our athletic director, he has not missed one game. 21-4, 25 games. He has been at every game. In fact, he's been an assistant coach for probably 10 of those. He'll get in there and do a stat sheet or a book, whatever's needed. And you can't ask for a better AD than Jake McGee. I mean, he is the most supportive guy that athletic director that I've met so far in terms of all sports. He wants all sports to be successful, but also the kids love him. He's got that mindset and that attitude He knows that fine line of when to be serious and when to have fun. And I think having him around, having his support in my first year has been everything to me. So I couldn't ask for a better AD.
And we talked, earlier too about this is the first time in over a decade. That earlier this week, the Cayuga men's basketball team was ranked in the top 25, number 24, first time in over a decade. What is your thoughts on rankings? Do you pay attention to them? And also, when you see that ranking next to your team name, what does that mean to you, and how cool is that to see?
And I'd be lying if I said I didn't look at that stuff. I think it does mean something. It means a lot to our kids to know that those kids have earned that. They work hard, and also the way that social media is today, Facebook, Twitter, all those things. Everything's posted. Every game is posted. Every stat line is posted. Every highlight reel is posted. So I think it's very important for those kids to see that. I really do, and I think it's a testament for how hard that they've worked to get to this point. But I also believe, when it's time to go to the playoffs and it's time to play a game, that stuff doesn't mean anything anymore. I think it's all about who's playing well at the right time. You'll see plenty of teams who have a record of 15-10 that aren't ranked, but they're playing well at the right time, and they'll beat those teams. So it's great right now, and I'm happy for it. I'm blessed for it. That these kids have earned it, but I'm also preaching to the kids, hey, we still got work to do. We still got to back it up, and then those kids know that, and those kids know that with how they prepare and how they work and how they're just being great teammates.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I know this is your first year at Cayuga, but how did you end up at Cayuga? What's a little bit of your background?
I grew up at Brownsboro, Texas. I went to high school there. Did a lot of summer league coaching while I was in college. When I was in my early 20s, I loved basketball. I wanted to travel around, coach basketball. So developed some good relationships over there. And then when I was done, I was the lead assistant at Brownsboro under Brent Smith. And a lot of other mentors. I'm very close friends with Coach Burke at Canton, Coach Fleming at Van, many other coaches, Coach Grodemat when he was at Lindale, guys that are mentors where I can go ask questions anytime, and because of that, I was ready to be a head coach, in my opinion. So I took the job at Elysian Fields last year. Had some success, had some downs in that tough district over there, and had 14 wins over there. I think that was the most wins we've had in about 7 or 8 years, and was able to turn that job into this job. This job's been everything and more. The community support, the backing of your AD and soup, and the staff, and the support system of parents, and the players behind. I mean, there isn't one bad thing to say around here in terms of sports. So I'm happy to be where I'm at. I'm happy that it's led me here, but I'm also thankful for the past. The past has been a big part of this success, and all the things that I've learned, I've been able to put it into kind of one, and it's starting to kind of turn itself on its own, and just excited to be here.
What's the biggest thing that you think you've learned, last year at Elysian Field, your first head coaching gig and kind of learning all that to where you are now? I know it's just a year removed, but how much have you learned from last year to this year?
From year one as a head coach to year two, that's a big jump, and I've learned a lot in these last 2 years, probably than in my last 8 when I was an assistant or if I was coaching in the summer. There's a lot of stuff that in coaching that I learned. You got to learn on your own. You got to take your bumps and bruises. There's definitely some great coaches out there that they're going to game plan you. They're always a step ahead, and I think my time at Elysian Fields and definitely my year as assistant at Brownsboro definitely was able to see all that stuff from behind the scenes and learn all that stuff and see how hard it is. Most parents believe some coaches just show up to coach, but the work is done and behind the scenes, and then you just show it in front of everybody on that stage. And so I've learned a lot. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the people who I've been able to ask questions to, and I'm still young, still growing, still learning to be that guy. And luckily right now we've kind of put it all together, and I'm excited at what we've been able to do.
Well, let's talk about this week coming up. You got La Pointer on Friday at La Pointer, so a road game there. 3-0 in district going up against a 3-1 La Pointer team. Talk to me a little bit about your expectations for this game on Friday, and then kind of your expectations for the rest of the year. I know you have some goals that y'all have set as a team, so kind of what are your expectations for the remainder of the season?
Well, we're going into a hostile environment on Friday. I mean, La Pointer's 19-4. They got a great coach who's recently been in the state championship game not too long ago, and but our expectation now is to win. Is to win. I think getting over that hurdle of beating Frankston the other night, a great team, great coach, and our expectations have changed a little bit. We're not just going to show up and compete. We're going to show up to win, and I think that that next level stuff that we've learned is a big process in that. And our goals, we don't have a set date that we want to play to, but we know we have an opportunity to go as far as possible. I mean, the big school option is what we'll probably go when you get in the playoffs. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself with that, but it's wide open. It's wide open to make a run, and it's all about who's playing well at the right time and who wants it more. And I think our kids are up for that. Our kids show up early. They get some extra shots up. They definitely do their part in film rooms. And I think our ceiling is really high. Our ceiling is really high, and as long as we understand those things and do what we're supposed to do, we're going to have a shot against anybody. And I know Martins Mill they are what they are, but I think we've created that culture. We're not going back down from anybody. And I think that just kind of just shows that, with our record and the 17 straight wins, hey, we're ready to play and we're ready to turn it on. And, of course, there may be a bump in the road every now and then with young kids, but how can we bounce back from that? And I think our first test this Friday on the road is going to be a big test on where we're at. And win or lose, we'll find some stuff that we need to work on going forward.
And last thing I want to ask you, that was going to be my last question, but something you said, maybe just think of something. Are you a fan of the split divisions now, instead of it being just one big 2A, basketball playoffs? Are you happy with it being D1 and D2? Do you like that?
So I think that stuff has its pros and cons. Yeah, yes and no. I would rather it already be split, so we kind of get an idea, I mean, because you get into a case where there's a lot of big schools that would, might go small school, and a lot of small schools might go big school if they were in their regular, design district. So you don't get a true big school, small school if you're doing it this way because of how the districts are lined up. But whoever's out in front of us, whoever the next opponent is, I think we're going to be prepared, and however that works, it'll take care of itself. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out. It's fun as a coach to look at that stuff every day, to see, hey, this team might go this way, it might go that way, but that's about it in terms of that point.
Yeah, and it's hard to game plan too when you get later in the season and it's coming down to that final week, final game, and you're like,
you still don't know.
Are we going big school? Are we going small school? Who's our opponent? What's the other district doing? Yeah, that's confusing. Hopefully one day they can get it all figured out where we just split it at the start, and then kind of who you're playing the whole season. That would
exactly right.
That would be nice. But nobody put us in charge to decide that, so we'll figure it out. Hey, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us this afternoon. Best of luck to you and the Wildcats through the remainder of the season. I'm sure we'll talk to you down the road.
Thank y'all for having me. Thank you.
Sports Now is brought to you by East Texas Marketing Solutions. Next level digital advertising has arrived. Grow your business with advanced solutions from one of the largest digital agencies in the country. East Texas Marketing Solutions is a resource for utilizing and executing advanced multi-platform marketing strategies. Discover more at easttexasmarketingsolutions.com. We had a busy weekend of football action between college and NFL. We still have one NFL game to be decided on Monday night, but we do have our national championship set for college, so let's see how we got here. On Thursday at the Fiesta Bowl, Miami beat Ole Miss 31-27. This game went back and forth. It was like a tennis match almost. Miami led 3-0. Then Ole Miss led 7-3. Miami took a 10-7 lead before Ole Miss tied it at 10. Miami took a 17-13 lead in the second quarter, and they held on to that lead until the fourth quarter when Ole Miss went up 19-17. The Hurricanes answered right back to go up 24-19 before Ole Miss answered back, and they scored to put them up 27-24. The Hurricanes then went 75 yards in 15 plays to take a 31-27 lead and win the game. Miami quarterback Carson Beck, a transfer from Georgia, he threw 2 touchdowns, and running back Mark Fletcher Jr. led the way on the ground with 133 yards rushing. Now on Friday, we found out who Miami would be playing in the Natty, and it wasn't even close. Indiana absolutely destroyed Oregon 56-22. On the first play of the game, Oregon's Dante Moore was intercepted for a pick 6, but the Ducks marched down the field in 14 plays to tie the game at 7. So we thought we had another back and forth game here. But after that, the Indiana Hoosiers scored 35 unanswered points to take a 42-7 lead in the third quarter. Heisman Trophy winner quarterback Fernando Mendoza threw just 3 incomplete passes. He finished with 177 yards and 5 touchdowns, while running back Kalon Black led the ground game with 63 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. So we have the Miami Hurricanes taking on the Indiana Hoosiers. Miami is playing the national championship game at their home stadium, and they're the first team to do that. Congratulations to them. The Natty is next Monday night, the 19th, at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. I'll give you my pick next week. On Saturday, the Greater Texas Ford Dealers and Dave Campbell's Texas Football presented their Player of the Year awards for each classification. Grant Sling quarterback Jet Taylor was named the 3A Built Ford Tough Player of the Year. Taylor led the Indians to an 8-3 record this year. He threw for 1,849 yards and 24 touchdowns, while rushing 169 times for 1,543 yards and 21 touchdowns. Quick math tells me that's 45 total touchdowns. Now defensively, Taylor recorded 73 tackles, 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and 3 interceptions. Taylor will play football for the Navy Midshipmen next year. In 2A, Mount Enterprise running back and linebacker Kagan Ash won the Built Ford Tough Player of the Year award. Winning this award was just the finishing touches on a magical season for Kagan. Against Overton back in September, I believe, or November, one of those, in district play, he recorded the most rushing yards in a game with 599 rushing yards. He also finished the year with 4,562 yards rushing, which is a new single-season record for the state. And he holds the career rushing record with 11,382 yards. He carried the ball 301 times this year and scored 67, yes, 67 rushing touchdowns. He also caught 14 passes for 508 yards and 9 touchdowns. Defensively, Ash had 111 tackles, which was 3rd on the team, and he led the team with 7.5 sacks and caused 5 fumbles. He'll be playing football next year for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. 2 great athletes, but they are even better human beings. So congratulations to Jet and Kagan, and best of luck to them at the next level. Sports Now was brought to you by East Texas Marketing Solutions. Next Level Digital Advertising has arrived. Grow your business with advanced solutions from one of the largest digital agencies in the country. East Texas Marketing Solutions is a resource for utilizing and executing advanced multi-platform marketing strategies. Discover more at easttexasmarketingsolutions.com.